Hey everybody! Today is Monday, March 23rd, and I just wanted to check in and post a video and just kind of see how everybody was doing. I know that right now, having moved to online format, everything seems a little bit confusing and overwhelming, and I just want you all to know that during this time I'm going to work with everybody. Don't worry so much about late assignments. As long as you can keep me updated about what's going on, I'll definitely work with you, so don't worry about that. So I have a couple of items. I just kind of jotted down a little list of what I just quickly wanted to touch base with you guys on. By the way, welcome to my office at the moment, aka my bedroom, because none of us are allowed to physically go to Gaston College at the moment. It's not open. So welcome. I didn't know I would be showing you this part of my home, but here we are. Anyway, the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the discussion boards. So the way that I'm going to keep track of your attendance for English 111 is through the discussion board format. So every Monday and Wednesday, I will post a new discussion board. It's going to have questions. It'll have your assignment for the day. It'll let you know kind of what's going on. It may have a video that you need to watch. So every Monday and Wednesday, make sure to, check in on the discussion board and keep your eye out on the announcements tab as well. Anything that I have to tell you, I'm going to put it as an announcement. I'll also send it to your email. I try my best to make sure everybody sees those, and if I notice that you haven't responded or if you haven't made a discussion board post, I'll try to reach out to you individually, as I have been doing this week, because like I said, I understand this transition has been difficult for everyone. And just a quick note, my kids are in there playing Yoshi's Crafty World on Nintendo Switch, so if you hear screaming or shouting or fighting, or if they come barging in here, that's why they're here at home with me. So it is what it is. I'm sure there's plenty of parents in this class that have their kids running around while they're listening to this video. Kudos to you guys, moms and dads. So make sure that you do check out the discussion board. Generally, what I'll ask you to do is an assignment, answer a couple questions, and then I will ask you to respond to 2 of your peers. This is very typical. It's good practice for if you ever do take an online class, because you typically do have to respond to at least 2 of your peers. I ask that you guys maintain the same level of respect that, I ask in class. If you want to disagree with somebody on a discussion board post, that's fine. Disagreements are okay, but we need to make sure that we keep it respectful. Let's see. I am still missing a few essays. They're a summary and response essay. Not very many of you guys. And a couple of you have emailed it to me. I need you guys who've emailed it to me to go ahead, go to the Blackboard page. If you go under the assignments tab and then the essay 2 folder, if you go down to the bottom, that's where you can submit your essay. The reason I need you to submit it through Blackboard is because it runs it through a plagiarism check, and I have to enter the grade there, which then transfers to the grade book at Gaston College. So I can't just take one that's the only thing that I have to have turned in through Blackboard. So if you've emailed the assignment to me, again, I'm not taking off any late points for it. Just go ahead and upload it if you haven't already. It's really important. So again, as far as the coronavirus and the college being shut down, and just to address a few of your discussion board posts that, some of you guys aren't worried about it. Some of you are scared. Some of you have had people in your place of employment, worried they might have it. Some of you still think that it's a media hoax. And to be honest with you, I can't sit here and tell you the answers to any of it, because I'm following the same media, the same posts that you are. All I can say is that I personally suggest following the guidelines that credible sources are putting out. So following the guidelines of your universities and schools, the announcements that Gaston College is posting, those are very proactive announcements. They're coming right from the CDC. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, they have a website that keeps you updated about anything and everything coronavirus related. And also, of course, your children's schools, your jobs, your places of employment, they're going to send out information. And that's the information that I would encourage you to read and listen to, rather than TikTok or Facebook or Twitter. Those sources are sometimes okay, but a lot of times they're not reliable. So I just encourage you to follow the sources that you know to be good ones and follow those guidelines. And it does not ever hurt to wash your hands. Just make sure you're putting on some lotion because they can get red. Let's see. I read you guys superhero stories. They were really funny and good, and they gave me a laugh on a kind of a really crappy week. So I'm really glad that we did that assignment before all this happened. And I did comment on them, but I'll have to wait and give them back to you the next time I see you. But thank you for those. I appreciate it. You guys, you really did take it that seriously, and that was a fun assignment. So I wanted to remind you that I'm available for you during this time. I obviously can't hold physical office hours, but if you need me, email me. It's mendoza.christian@gaston.edu. Reach out to me if you need me. At this time, I'm here for you. So I have a challenge for you guys. I challenge you each to get out and do one good deed. Now, this good deed could take place in your own home with a family member, a friend, anything. You guys could take a box of macaroni and cheese to one of the little libraries in a local park that are filling up with food for people that might not have any. You guys could write a letter and, put it on a neighbor's doorstep that maybe doesn't have company, or just text a friend that you maybe haven't heard from in a while and check on them. But my challenge for you guys for this week is to just do at least one good deed. And then the last thing that I want to talk about for the day is narrators. And so we've talked a little bit about narrators before. The narrator is a person who tells the story in a book or an article, a fiction story. The narrator is the one telling the story. So normally, think about books that commonly that have been made into movies, like The Hunger Games or Harry Potter. The narrator is usually, in most cases, reliable. You can trust that person for the most part. So when Harry Potter is saying, I'm going to get the Sorcerer's Stone because of the right reasons in my heart, you know that Harry Potter has those right reasons in his heart because he's a trustworthy character. He's a reliable narrator. So one thing that fascinates me, and it fascinates a lot of other literature majors, are unreliable narrators. And those are the narrators that you can't necessarily trust for reasons that vary. So before we get into our assignment, which is what I want you guys to do today, I want to talk to you a little bit about unreliable narrators. And I'm going to read you just a little bit this article I got off of nownovel.com, and I'm going to link it with the discussion board post and the announcement. So you guys are welcome to go over there and read it yourself. You can tag it or pin it or whatever you want to do. But this is about an unreliable narrator and what it means, what they are, where you can find them, and the types of different ones that you might encounter in literature. So an unreliable narrator is a character who tells the reader a story that cannot be taken at face value. So this may be because the point of view of the character is they are insane, they are lying, or they're deluded for any number of reasons. So the phrase unreliable narrator was first used by the literary critic Wayne Booth in the early 1960s. The technique has been around as long as literature itself has been. In fact, prehistoric humans probably sat around fires, knowingly listening to one hunter who always exaggerated his feats. The writer and the narrator in fiction are not the same person, of course. So what does the writer stand to gain from using a misleading narrator to tell a story? What is the purpose of an untruthful narrator in fiction? And how can the writer ensure that the reader understands that the narrator is not to be believed? Sometimes the narrator is unreliable by nature. In other words, some stories are told by narrators who are such terrible people that they cannot tell their stories objectively. In general, even people who commit the worst crimes justify their actions to themselves. And this is going to be apparent in what we're reading today. A classic example is the murderous narrator of the Edgar Allan Poe story. We're finally getting into some Poe, The Telltale Heart. And then it goes on to talk about some other different types of unreliable narrators. Like dishonest narrators can be used to great effect in stories of crime and mystery. It can be difficult to discuss these types of narrators without spoiling the story, but both Agatha Christie's classic novel, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and the recent Gillian Flynn bestseller, Gone Girl, which I'm sure a lot of you have either seen or read, employ unreliable narrators whose lack of trustworthiness is crucial to the construction of both of the novels and or movies, if you didn't read the book, mystery. Often in these books, the readers start out trusting the narrator, and only as the story goes on, they realize that something is amiss or something isn't right. The unreliable narrator is particularly useful for horror and supernatural fiction. The classic 19th century tale, you guys may have heard of it, maybe not. The Yellow Wallpaper. Sound familiar to anybody? I don't know, maybe. But that's one famous example of this type of narrator. So a more modern example is The Life of Pi, that novel in which readers wonder about the truth of events described by the narrator. And then it says that there's a subtype of narrator that differs from those listed above. This narrator is unreliable due to having incomplete or incorrect information themselves. For example, the narrator of Rebecca initially misunderstands nearly everything she learns about her new husband's dead wife, and therefore the reader misunderstands it as well. So she didn't have the information, so therefore the reader didn't either. So there are dangers in using this type of narrator because readers do not always understand that a narrator is not the final truth and the final voice of authority. They may even confuse the narrator with the author. A lot of times this happens. The unreliable narrator is the most obvious in mystery plots, where the narrator's unreliability is generally revealed as part of the resolution of the book. But in other cases, it's important to plant clues along the way to ensure that the reader understands and perceives the situation in a way the writer does not. Sometimes, the unreliability of the narrator is only gradually revealed. The reader may in fact trust the narrator through much of the novel or book or short story. With this approach, it's important to layer in clues throughout the first part of the novel without making them obvious. This ensures that in looking back, the reader does not feel cheated by the switch. Because at the end of a book or a short story, the reader doesn't want to feel cheated. The twist can come, but the reader doesn't want to feel cheated by it. So this talks a little bit about what an unreliable narrator is. So I'm going to have you guys read The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, and I want you guys to consider the narrator. I want you to think about it the whole way through. Is this narrator reliable? Is this narrator unreliable? What might that mean for the story, if he is or isn't? Okay guys, I'm going to sign off now, but everything you need to know about unreliable narrators you can find on the website that I link below, and I will post the discussion board questions. Please make sure to answer them. I would like to have at least 3 to 5 sentences for each question, and make sure to respond to 2 of your peers. All right, I hope you have a great day. Thanks, take care.